Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Wanted to start off today's video by sending a couple of quick shout outs. One goes out to my man Randy, and funny quick backstory with Randy is he subscribed to the channel yesterday. Randy and I actually went to the same high school here in the area, just not at the same time because we're not quite the same age, but we did go to the same high school, so we're from the same area. And I just found him on Facebook and got him to subscribe. He's a huge college football fan, so he should enjoy today's video. I'm trying to get him to come out to the local high school football game tonight so that I can catch up with him, because even though we went to school together and I'm sure there were times that I seen him in the hallway or in town, something like that, it's been so long I just don't remember. But you know how it is when you're in school. You're not in the same grade as somebody, but you still see them on the school bus, in the hallway, in the cafeteria. So I'm sure I've seen him before. I just do not remember. So I'm trying to get him to come out to the local high school football game tonight so that I can catch up with him, and maybe I'll see him and recognize him if I have seen him before. But I always try to encourage these people that I don't know or don't think that I know to make a way to meet me somewhere if I can, if they're from this area, because a lot of people know me personally, and the ones that know me personally know how I am. But the ones that don't know me personally and only know me through YouTube, I would love to be able to meet as many of all of them that I can, because a lot of people are completely different in person than they are on YouTube or any other, TV or social media thing. You see them and they come across as being nice and genuine, and then when you meet them, they're completely different. And I'm not that way. I'm the same way in person that I am on here. So I try to meet as many people as I can so that everybody can see me and realize I'm just genuine, laid back, crazy in real life as I am on here. I've been in front of camera since I was like 6 years old, so it doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me. It doesn't make me change. I'm the same goofy guy day and night. So hopefully Randy will come out tonight and I'll be able to meet him. And also a quick shout out to my man Cameron. And I got a funny story about Cameron too. He subscribed to the channel yesterday as well. And him and I were talking originally on Monday, and we were talking about the Monday night football game, and I told him that I thought the Chargers would win because, first of all, I think Justin Herbert is the best young quarterback in the NFL. But second of all, I'm just not a believer in John Gruden, and I'm not a believer in Derek Carr. Derek Carr gets off to a great start every year, and then by week 10, it's, should Derek Carr be benched? Is Derek Carr past his prime? Should the Raiders trade Derek Carr? So he does this every year, then he falls apart. But while Cameron and I were talking, he told me he was waiting for Wednesday night to watch the Dodgers play. And I told him I was a Braves fan. And I told him the Braves are the only team in the state of Georgia from any sport that I like. And he told me the only team in the state of Georgia from any sport that he likes is the Georgia Bulldogs. So we both like one team in the state of Georgia, but mine is baseball and his is college. So Cameron and Randy, thank you guys so much for subscribing, and I hope you enjoy the channel. I'd love to meet both of you somewhere down the road one day, and I think you'll both enjoy today's video, because today we're going to be talking about college football. And if you watched yesterday's video, I said in yesterday's video that this was the lightest schedule of the year as far as the amount of games being played, because there's so many teams that are off this weekend. So I guess that's bad in a way because you won't get to watch as many great football games, but I think it's good in a way because of the fact, like last week at noon, there was like 5 good games on between noon and 3:30. So unless you've got some big monstrous man cave where you have TVs all around the room, or one of those big, huge TVs with a split down the middle, there was just no way to watch all those games. So you either had to just flip back and forth and watch a little of each game, and then or just pick one and decide to watch that one and miss the rest of them. So this week it'll be a lot easier. You won't have to do near as much flipping because there's not near as many good games on, but there's some good games. But since there's not as many games this week, they've been able to spread these games out more and put a couple of them in each time slot to make it a little bit easier to decide which ones you want to watch. And I'm only going to talk about really the marquee matchups for tomorrow. And the reason why I say marquee in quotations is because to me, looking on the schedule, there's a few games that I think are actually going to be good games. But the national media and all that's not talking about them because it's two average teams playing each other. And usually for it to be a marquee matchup that's going to get any kind of hype, it has to be two ranked teams playing each other or one really good team playing a team that's barely not ranked that's trying to get ranked, or one really good team playing a team that was supposed to be good when the season started and they've just fallen apart. So we'll talk about those games that get considered marquee games and not the ones that I think will be marquee games. And before I get into that, quickly let me say, I know every single week here on the channel I've been doing a AP poll where I talk about the actual current AP poll, and then I give, my top 10, and I base mine on the action that I see every weekend. And mine changes on a week-to-week basis based on how good you played that Thursday night or that Friday night or that Saturday, whenever your game was. But I've always continuously said that to me, the polls are pointless. I think they're stupid. It gives people something to talk about because I know by June, early July, everybody's craving football and you just want to discuss something. So the polls come out and it gives you a reason to talk and give something to talk about. But I don't like it because, if you're a fan of a team and they're not ranked, you get mad because they're not ranked. Or if you're a fan of a team and they come out in the top 10, you expect to be top 10, and then when you're not, you're disappointed. But I think they're absolutely irrelevant. I heard on Tuesday, watching some TV, that I believe it was 9 of the top 17 programs from the original opening weekend AP Top 10 have already lost at least one game, if not two. So 9 of the top 17. So that's almost half of the top 20 have already lost at least one game, if not two. That just shows you how irrelevant the early season polls are. I've always said I don't think any poll should come out until October. Anything before October is rendered pointless to me. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the games. Tonight, on Friday night football, we've got a couple of games on. I don't think either one of them are going to be close. I'm not even going to talk about the Charlotte game, but as far as the other two games that I will bring up, one of them is Temple and Cincinnati. Of course, Cincinnati's coming off their huge win over Notre Dame last weekend, and Temple is not any good, so I don't think the game is going to be anything worth even looking at. But maybe I'll be wrong. Hopefully Temple will at least put up a good fight. And also tonight you've got Stanford, who is coming off their big win over Oregon last week, going up against Arizona State. And of course the Sun Devils were ranked earlier in the season, then they lost. But then last week when they beat UCLA, they jumped back into the rankings. So you've got number 5 in action tonight and number 22 in action tonight. And then as far as tomorrow goes, we'll start with noon, as we always do. One of the games tomorrow that's been played at noon for far back as I can remember, and it's always been considered a neutral site game because it's not played in Norman and it's not played in Austin. It's played at the Texas State Fairgrounds, the game that was formerly known as the Red River Rivalry. That's number 6 Oklahoma going up against number 21 Texas. And I've heard a lot of pundits this week saying they think Texas is going to beat them. And I know they're saying that because Steve Sarkisian is slowly making Texas offense great. And Spencer Rattler just has not came as far, as quick as everybody thought he would. If you remember, he lost his job last year early in the season because he wasn't playing well. But then when Oklahoma got 2 losses, he got his job back. And of course, the guy he lost his job to was Tanner Mordecai, who is now the quarterback for the Mustangs of SMU. But after Oklahoma got 2 losses and Rattler got his job back, he played pretty good the rest of the year. So everybody thought he was going to be great this year, and he hasn't been. So Oklahoma's offense has been average. They put up 37 points last week, but it's still average. And if it's average tomorrow, Texas will beat them. But I think Oklahoma will show up, and I think Oklahoma will win that football game. But maybe I'll be wrong. I'd love to see Texas beat them only because Oklahoma's ranked 6th. And I love seeing highly ranked teams lose unless they're a team that I like. So I would love to see the Sooners get beat, but I just don't think they will. And another game at noon is 2 teams coming off their first loss of the season, and that's Arkansas and Ole Miss. Of course, Arkansas got destroyed by Georgia, and Ole Miss lost to Alabama. But if you watch that game, the score was not indicative of the actual game. Lane Kiffin was overly aggressive, and that destroyed any chance Ole Miss had of winning that game. But I give Lane Kiffin credit because the old Lane Kiffin would have pouted and whined and cried, and this Lane Kiffin has not. As a matter of fact, he's been involved in the controversy this week and taking a lot of heat for the way he handled the pregame interview last week. If you want to call it a interview, it was like 15 seconds long. To me, that's not even long enough for an interview. But if you want to call it that, we'll call it a pregame interview. And he's been taking a lot of harsh criticism for the way he handled it and the way he treated Jamie Erdahl, the CBS sideline reporter. And he's came out this week and apologized for it. And I don't believe what he said. I think he's lying. I don't for one second believe what he said. But I still give him credit because the old Lane Kiffin wouldn't apologize for it. He would have just moved on and act like it never happened. But this Lane Kiffin did at least. Whether you believe him or not does not matter. The point that Lane Kiffin came out and apologized shows Lane Kiffin's maturity from his USC days to his Ole Miss days. He's changed a lot over the years. Another game tomorrow at noon that I wrote down just for kicks and giggles is Maryland and Ohio State. And the only reason I think it might be close is because Tagovailoa and the Terrapins are coming off their first loss of the season when they got destroyed 1 week ago tonight when they played Iowa, when they had 7 turnovers. So I think Mike Locksley is going to have Maryland ready to play, ready to go. But I still think they'll lose, but hopefully it'll be a close game. But Ohio State's defense, it was awful early in the season, which is why so many teams hung with them, which is why Oregon beat them. But their defense did show a little bit of improvement last week. We'll have to wait and see if it improves any more by tomorrow because Maryland has a pretty good offense. So if Maryland puts up 40 points, then Ohio State's defense has not made the progress I thought it did, but it looked a lot better in their game against Rutgers last week. Now at 3:30, I wrote this game down because according to the pundits, it's supposed to be a good game because it's 2 ranked teams against each other. So I said, what the heck, I'll write it down. But it's a 3:30 CBS game, Georgia and Auburn. I don't think it's going to be a game. I think Auburn is trash. The only reason Auburn's ranked 18th is because they beat LSU, which makes no sense because LSU sucks out loud. But Auburn is ranked because they beat LSU. But after they lose tomorrow, they probably won't be ranked next week. I think Bo Nix is hot garbage, and I think Auburn is hot doo-doo. But it's 2 ranked teams playing each other. I think Georgia will beat them by 20+. I'm not saying Georgia's going to have their 3rd straight shutout. Eventually, somebody's going to score. But even if Auburn scores 10, Georgia's going to score 30+. So if Auburn scores 10, it ain't going to matter. It does not matter whether or not JT Daniels plays or not. I've said it over and over, and I'll keep saying it. It does not matter who plays quarterback for Georgia the rest of the regular season. Now, it might matter come a conference championship game and playoff time if they make it. But in the regular season, Auburn sucks. Missouri sucks. Florida sucks. Charleston Southern is, well, they're Charleston Southern. Tennessee has a decent offense. It's getting better, but Tennessee's defense sucks. And we know Georgia Tech is terrible. So it does not matter if Georgia puts a robot at quarterback the rest of the season. It does not matter. All they're going to do is turn around and hand off to all those running backs they have. Stetson Bennett threw 11 passes last week. Now, if you're going to throw 11 passes, it don't matter who plays quarterback for you. It's not really that relevant. So Georgia wins big, whether J.T. Daniels plays or not. It does not matter. And then, to me, the best game on the docket this weekend is the 4 o'clock game tomorrow. If you love good old-fashioned football where the teams just line up and hit you in the mouth for 3.5 hours, this is a good game. And that's the 4 o'clock game tomorrow. That's number 4, Penn State, and number 3, Iowa. The last point spread I saw was on Tuesday, and it had Iowa picked to win by 2 points. It's probably changed a little bit since then. I don't get too into point spreads. Sometimes I don't even look at them. But Iowa by 2 sounds about right. I still don't trust Sean Clifford. But if either team scores 20 points, I'll be surprised. If you was to ask me the over-under on this game, I'd tell you 24. Because I really think it's going to be 14-10, 13-10, something like that. So if you like good old-fashioned football where the team just line up and hit you, this is the game for you. And then, of course, 8 o'clock tomorrow night is Alabama and Texas A&M. And so many people think A&M is going to hang with them because of Jimbo Fisher. And I just do not get it. You've got a man making $8 million a year to go 8-4. And he just keeps getting extensions on his contract to keep going 8-4. If you're going 8-4 and you keep getting extended every year, you have no motivation to do any better than 8-4. And they've had a whole lot better offenses in the past than they do this year. And they play Bama and they get killed. So I think they're going to get killed tomorrow night. And then also tomorrow night, another game I wrote down. It's not getting much talk, but I think it's a very important, very critical game for Ed Orgeron. And the reason I say that is because if you follow the channel, I've been saying since before the season started that I'm not a big fan of Ed Orgeron. I think they're overrated. I think they're garbage. I think this is last year there, and I've been saying that for probably since last year. But even when I did my early season preview for LSU, I didn't see them going 6-6. I think I said they would go 8-4. I believe that's what I said, maybe 7-5. But they've already got 2 losses, and they're playing Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's not very good, but Mark Stoops is a heck of a head coach. So if this game comes down to a coaching decision, I'll pick Kentucky over LSU all day long. But LSU's got 2 losses already, and they still ain't played Bama. They still ain't played Ole Miss. They still ain't played Arkansas. So if LSU loses to Kentucky, they might go 6-6. And if they go 6-6, there ain't a doubt in my mind Ed Orgeron will get fired. As a matter of fact, I read an article, I believe it was on Wednesday, that said Ed Orgeron is safe. If this article was true, Ed Orgeron is safe if he gets to 8 wins. Looking at their schedule, if they lose to Kentucky tomorrow night, I don't see any way they get to 8 wins unless they upset somebody. But the team I've seen so far, they ain't upsetting anybody. So this game is very, very critical for Ed Orgeron. Now, of course, he won the national championship 2 years ago, and usually if you win a national championship, you're safe for a few years unless you're Gene Chizik. Gene Chizik won the national title at Auburn, and he was fired 2 years later. But with all the scandals and stuff at LSU that they've got going on, that's been going on since 2019, and they're not going away, and now you're not winning, and you're not showing any signs of turning it around, I think anything less than 8 wins, I think Ed Orgeron is a dead man walking. So this Kentucky game is very, very critical for him. So we'll have to wait and see what finds out in that game. Of course, Kentucky won last week, and they only put up 20 points. But Florida, with the great Dan Moylan, who's an offensive mastermind, put up a whopping 13 points. So maybe Kentucky can pull off another upset. That's another game where I have not looked at the point spread because it doesn't matter. But I think Kentucky will win the game. And I want to see Kentucky win the game just to see how much hotter Ed Orgeron seat gets. Plus, I want to see how long Kentucky can go undefeated. You know, they're one of those teams that if they have an 8-win season, it's a great year. So I want to see how long Kentucky can go being undefeated. I love Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops is a great example of how a lot of programs and a lot of schools should have patience. You can look at Mark Stoops at Kentucky, or you can look at Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, or if you watch college basketball, you can look at Mike Krzyzewski, or as I call him, Mike Krzyzewski. Mike Krzyzewski's first 5 years at Duke, he was 500. I mean, they were bad. And nowadays, if you coach 5 years and you're 500, you getting fired. But the Duke AD back then showed patience with Mike Krzyzewski, kept him around, and now look what he's built. Same way with Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. He averages 8 wins a year, and a lot of people don't like that. But would you rather win 8 games every single year, or would you rather have 1 year where you do what LSU did, and you go out there and beat the brakes off everybody, but then for the next 5 years, you're barely 500? I would rather be an 8 or 9 win team every year than I would have 1 year where you go all in trying to win the national championship, and then outside of that, you're barely 500. At least if you're an 8-win team every year or 9-win team, you get respect. You go 6-6, you don't get any respect. And now this year, Iowa is a top 5 team. Well, Mark Stoops, same way at Kentucky. His first year, I think they won 2 games. And there was a lot of people that were already wanting him fired because of how bad they were. But they've kept him along, kept him there, and they just continuously, slowly keep getting better and better. If he ever manages to find a quarterback that's actually a quarterback that can drop back and throw the ball consistently, Kentucky's going to be tough. But remember, a few years back, they had Bowden, or as they pronounced it, Bowden at quarterback, and he wasn't even a quarterback. And then, of course, last year they had the quarterback that transferred from Oregon and come to Kentucky, Terry Wilson. He lost his job. Now he's left Kentucky, and he's at New Mexico, I believe. And this year they've got Will Levis, who is, I think he was 7 of 17 last week. He always just puts makeshift guys at quarterback. If he ever finds an actual drop-back quarterback, Kentucky is going to be tough. If he's winning 8 games a year with non-quarterbacks, this day and time where the quarterbacks are so important, if he ever finds a quarterback that's actually a quarterback, Kentucky's going to be good. So there's a few good games on tomorrow. If you have any thoughts on any of these games, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I have learned not to trust stairs as I get older. Not because I may fall down, but because I figured out that they are always up to something. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.